The old space station floated in the darkness like a forgotten skeleton. It had been there for millions of years, waiting in the empty space between stars where no one traveled. The metal walls were covered in strange symbols that no living species could read. The air inside was cold and stale, but somehow the lights still worked, glowing with a soft blue color that made everything feel like a dream. Daniel Porter stood near the back of the group, watching the aliens around him argue about what to do next. He was just a cargo worker on the salvage ship called the Wandering Star. His job was to move boxes and load supplies. Nobody asked for his opinion on important matters, and that was fine with him. He had learned long ago that humans were not respected in this part of the galaxy. Captain Vorath led the team. He was a Drekari, a tall reptilian creature with green scales and yellow eyes that never seemed to blink. His people were proud warriors who believed they were descended from ancient gods. Vorath looked at the humans on his crew the same way someone might look at insects. "The chamber is ahead," Vorath said, his voice rough like stones grinding together. "The armor of the architects waits for us. Today, I will claim what countless others have failed to take." Megan Shaw walked beside Daniel. She was the only other human on this mission, a scientist who studied alien artifacts. Her job was to record everything they found and translate the ancient writing on the walls. She was smart and brave, but the aliens ignored her just like they ignored Daniel. "These symbols are fascinating," Megan whispered to Daniel. "They talk about something called the Mantle of the Worthy. Apparently, this armor was made to be worn by only one kind of being in the entire universe. And let me guess," Daniel said quietly, "every species thinks they are the worthy ones." Megan smiled sadly. "Exactly. According to the records, hundreds of species have tried to wear this armor over the past million years. They all failed. Some died. Some went crazy. The armor rejected every single one of them." Krillix, the insectoid engineer, clicked his mandibles in annoyance as he walked past them. "Why are the humans talking? This is not your place. Stay quiet and carry the equipment like you were supposed to." Daniel felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. Getting into fights with aliens never ended well for humans. They were seen as weak, primitive creatures who had only recently discovered space travel. Most species thought humans were lucky to be allowed on ships at all. The group reached a massive door, covered in glowing symbols. Dr. Phoenix, a thin gray alien with large black eyes, pressed his hand against a panel. The door slowly opened, revealing a chamber that took Daniel's breath away. The room was huge, with walls that stretched up into darkness. In the center, floating inside a column of golden light, was the armor. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The metal was black but seemed to shift and move like liquid. Strange patterns glowed across its surface, pulsing like a heartbeat. "The mantle of the architects," Ambassador Tyrell Quinn said softly. He was a Selenari, tall and elegant with silver skin and eyes that shimmered like stars. He represented the Galactic Council, the organization that governed most of the known universe. "For 10,000 years, we have searched for this artifact. And now, finally, it is within our grasp." Captain Vorath stepped forward, his chest swelling with pride. "I will be the one to wear it. My bloodline is pure. My ancestors conquered 100 worlds. If anyone is worthy, it is me." Grothuk, a massive creature covered in thick gray armor plates, growled in disagreement. He was a Corvani, a species known for their incredible strength. "You are a lizard who talks too much. I am the strongest being here. The armor will recognize true power. Strength alone is not enough," Dr. Phoenix said, studying the energy readings on his device. "The armor seems to be searching for something specific. Something in the mind and body of the wearer. I have never seen technology like this before." Daniel moved closer, curious despite himself. As he walked toward the armor, he felt something strange. A warmth spread through his chest, and for just a moment, he thought he saw the armor pulse brighter. He shook his head and stepped back. It was probably just his imagination. "The inscriptions warn against the unworthy," Megan said, reading the symbols on the walls. "They say that those who try to take the armor without being chosen will face terrible consequences. It talks about fire and judgment." Captain Vorath laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the chamber. "Superstition and fairy tales. The architects are dead. Their warnings mean nothing. I will take what is mine." He walked toward the armor with confident steps. The other aliens watched with a mixture of excitement and fear. Even Grothik took a step back, waiting to see what would happen. Vorath reached out his clawed hand and touched the armor. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then the armor exploded with light. A force like an invisible wall slammed into Vorath and threw him across the room. He crashed into the far wall and fell to the ground, smoke rising from burns across his scales. He screamed in pain and rage. "Captain!" Several Drekari soldiers rushed to help him. The armor floated calmly in its column of light, unchanged and undamaged. It had rejected another one. Ambassador Quinn stared at the scene with wide eyes. It seemed the old warnings were true after all. The armor chooses its wearer. It cannot be taken by force. Daniel watched all of this from the back of the room. He could not explain why, but he felt the armor was watching him too. That was crazy, of course. He was just a cargo worker. A human. The lowest of the low in this galaxy. But deep inside, something was waking up. Something that had been sleeping for a very long time. And the armor could feel it. 3 days passed inside the ancient station. Captain Vorath recovered from his burns, but his pride was wounded far deeper than his body. He refused to look at the armor and spent most of his time in the medical bay, cursing the architects and their tricks. The Galactic Council sent new orders. They wanted every major species to attempt bonding with the armor. If one of them succeeded, it would bring great honor and power to their people. If they all failed, the armor would be sealed away forever, where no one could reach it. Daniel watched from the corner of the chamber as alien after aliens stepped forward to try their luck. He had been ordered to stay and carry equipment, so he had no choice but to witness everything. First came Grothik, the Korvani warrior. He was 3 times bigger than any human, with muscles like mountains and skin that could stop bullets. His people believed that true worth came from physical power. Nothing else mattered. "I am Grothik," he announced loudly. "I have killed 1,000 enemies in battle. I have never known defeat. I am worthy." He grabbed the armor with both hands. The light turned red. A terrible sound filled the room like metal screaming. Grothik's face twisted in pain as visions flooded his mind. He saw his own death 100 different ways. He saw his home world burning. He saw everyone he loved turning to dust. He let go and fell to his knees, shaking like a child. Tears ran down his rough face. The mighty warrior could not even stand. "Get him out of here," Ambassador Quinn ordered quietly. Next came a Veloci scientist named Dr. Phoenix. His species was known for their intelligence. They had solved problems that other races could not even understand. Dr. Phoenix believed that the armor required a superior mind. He touched the armor gently, like he was greeting an old friend. The armor showed him something worse than death. It showed him how small his knowledge truly was. It showed him the endless universe and all the things he would never understand. It showed him that his entire life of study was nothing more than a child playing with toys. Dr. Phoenix stumbled backward, his large eyes empty and hollow. He did not speak for the rest of the day. Some said he never fully recovered. One by one, 12 different species tried to claim the armor. A Selenari diplomat touched it, and experienced all the lies he had ever told coming back to destroy him. A Vethany engineer felt the cold loneliness of space pressing down on her until she could not breathe. A Tharnaki priest saw his gods abandon him and laugh at his faith. Every single one of them failed. Megan watched everything with careful eyes, recording the results and studying the symbols on the walls. She pulled Daniel aside during a break in the testing. "I figured out more of the translation," she said quietly. "The inscription describes what the armor is looking for. It says, 'Born of struggle, forged in adversity, carrying hope through darkness.'" Daniel thought about those words. "That sounds like a riddle." "I think it is describing a type of being," Megan said. "Not a specific species, but a kind of spirit. Someone who became strong through suffering, not someone who was born strong." "But all these aliens have suffered," Daniel pointed out. "They've all faced hard times." Megan shook her head. "Have they, though?" "The Kovani evolved on a peaceful world with plenty of food. They became strong because nature made them that way. The Veloci developed intelligence because their planet had no predators and they had time to think. Most of these species were given their gifts. They did not earn them." Daniel felt a strange feeling in his stomach. He thought about Earth. He thought about the ice ages, the plagues, the wars, the famines. He thought about how humans had clawed their way up from nothing, fighting every step of the way. Nothing had been given to them. Everything had been earned through blood and tears. "You are thinking what I am thinking," Megan said softly, before Daniel could answer. Ambassador Quinn called for attention. "We have completed the trials," the ambassador announced, his voice heavy with disappointment. "No species has proven worthy. The Galactic Council has decided. The armor will be sealed in a containment field and transported to a secure location. It is too dangerous to remain accessible. Soldiers move forward with equipment to create the containment field." Daniel stepped back to give them room. That was when it happened. His shoulder brushed against the column of light. Just barely. Just for a moment. The armor moved. It did not reject him. It did not attack him. Instead, it reached out toward him like a hand seeking another hand. Everyone in the room froze. "What is happening?" Ambassador Quinn demanded. The armor began to glow brighter than before. The symbols on the walls lit up one by one, spreading across the entire chamber. A deep humming sound filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. Daniel tried to step away, but his feet would not move. The armor was calling to him. He could feel it in his bones, in his blood, in his soul. It knew him. It had been waiting for him. "The human," Captain Varoth hissed, his eyes wide with disbelief. "The armor is responding to the human." Krillex clicked his mandibles in confusion. "That is impossible. Humans are the weakest species in the galaxy. They cannot even survive in normal gravity without complaining." But the armor did not care about what was possible. It only cared about what was true, and the truth was standing right in front of it, wearing the body of a simple cargo worker named Daniel Porter. "Touch it," Megan whispered, her voice shaking with excitement and fear. "Daniel, touch the armor." Daniel looked at his hand. It was trembling. Every part of him was screaming to run away, to hide, to let someone else deal with this. But another part of him, a deeper part, was pushing forward. The part that had survived everything. The part that refused to give up no matter how hard things got. He reached out. His fingers touched the armor, and everything changed. The moment Daniel's fingers made contact, the armor melted. It turned into liquid silver and flowed up his arm like water running in reverse. He tried to pull back, but it was too late. The metal spread across his chest, down his legs, over his shoulders. In seconds, it covered his entire body. He expected pain. He expected the terrible visions that had broken so many others. But instead, he felt warmth. It spread through him like sunlight after a long winter, filling every part of his body with gentle heat. Then the memories came. They were not his memories. They were older than him. Older than any human who had ever lived. They belonged to his entire species. He saw the first humans, small and afraid, hiding from predators in the tall grass. He saw them learn to make fire, to build shelters, to work together. He saw ice covering the world and humans refusing to die. He saw diseases that killed millions and humans finding cures. He saw wars that burned cities to ash and humans rebuilding from the ruins. He saw famines and floods and earthquakes. He saw children burying parents and parents burying children. He saw pain beyond imagining, but through all of it, he saw something else. Hope. Stubborn, foolish, beautiful hope. No matter how bad things got, humans kept going. They held hands in the darkness. They sang songs in the ruins. They planted seeds in poisoned ground and believed flowers would grow. A voice spoke in his mind. It was not a sound but a feeling, like thoughts appearing from nowhere. We searched for millions of years. We studied 10,000 species across 100 galaxies. We were looking for the ones who earned their fire. The ones who were not born strong but became strong. The ones who could carry the weight of the universe on their shoulders and still choose to be kind. Daniel could not speak. The visions kept coming. Many species came close. Some had the strength but lost their compassion. Some had the compassion but lost their will to fight. Some gave up when things became too hard. Some became cruel when they gained power. He saw worlds burning. He saw empires rising and falling. He saw a species that had touched the armor and been found wanting. But then we found you, a young race from a small world. A death world where everything tried to kill you. Poison in the air. Predators in every shadow. Diseases that evolved faster than you could cure them. Your planet tried to destroy you every single day. Daniel saw Earth through new eyes. He had always known his home was dangerous, but he had never understood just how rare survival truly was. Most species evolved on peaceful worlds where life was easy. Humans had evolved in a war zone and somehow came out stronger. You should have died 1,000 times. But you did not. You adapted. You survived. You helped each other. And when you finally reached the stars, you did not come as conquerors. You came with open hands, wanting to learn and share and grow. The voice grew softer, almost sad. You are the ones we were waiting for. The worthy. The visions faded. Daniel opened his eyes. He was still standing in the chamber, but everything looked different. The armor had finished bonding with him. It covered his body like a second skin, black metal that shifted and glowed with golden light. He could feel it responding to his thoughts, reading his emotions, amplifying his will. He raised his hand and stared at it. Power flowed through him like electricity. He had never felt anything like this in his entire life. By the ancient stars, Ambassador Quinn whispered. His silver face had gone pale with shock. It accepted him. The armor accepted a human. The other aliens stared with mixtures of disbelief, fear, and anger. For countless years, humans had been treated as lesser beings. Weak, primitive, barely worth noticing. And now one of them was wearing the most powerful artifact in the known universe. Captain Vorath stepped forward, his claws clenched into fists. This is a mistake. A trick. The armor must have malfunctioned. I demand that the human remove it immediately and surrender it to the council. Daniel looked at the Dreckery captain. Through the armor's enhanced senses, he could see Vorath's fear hiding behind his anger. The captain was not upset because the armor had chosen wrong. He was upset because the armor had proven him unworthy. I do not think I can remove it, Daniel said. His voice sounded strange, deeper and stronger than before. It has become part of me. Then we will cut it off you, Vorath growled. He pulled out his weapon and aimed it at Daniel. Megan stepped between them. Are you insane? The armor chose him. The architects designed it to find the worthy, and it found Daniel. If you attack him, you are attacking the legacy of the most advanced civilization that ever existed. She speaks truth, Dr. Fennec said weakly. He had recovered enough to observe what was happening, though his eyes still looked haunted. The armor is not a tool to be claimed. It is a test to be passed. We all failed. The humans succeeded. That is the reality we must accept. Vorath looked around the room, hoping to find support. But even Grothak, who had mocked humans just hours ago, remained silent. They had all seen what the armor did to those it rejected. They had all felt its judgment. None of them wanted to challenge it now. Before anyone could speak again, alarms began screaming throughout the station. Red lights flashed on every wall. The floor trembled beneath their feet. What is happening? Ambassador Quinn demanded. A soldier ran into the chamber, his face twisted with terror. Ships, Ambassador. Hundreds of them. They appeared from nowhere. They are surrounding the station. On the wall, a screen flickered to life showing the space outside. Daniel felt his blood turn cold. A massive fleet of black ships hung in the void, blocking out the stars. They looked like nothing Daniel had ever seen before. Sharp angles. Dead metal. Ships built for one purpose, only destruction. A message crackled through the station's communication system. The voice that spoke was cold and empty, like wind blowing through a graveyard. We felt the mantle awaken. We have been hunting it for 100,000 years. Surrender it to us, or we will reduce your station to atoms. You have 1 hour to decide. The message ended. Silence filled the chamber. Daniel looked at the armor covering his body. He looked at the terrified faces around him. He looked at Megan, whose eyes were full of fear but also trust. The armor had chosen him. Now he had to prove it was right. The enemy fleet hung in space like a swarm of black insects. Daniel counted at least 300 ships, each one bristling with weapons. The station's small defense systems would be useless against such a force. The salvage ship Wandering Star had no weapons at all. Who are they? Daniel asked, his voice calm despite the fear building inside him. Ambassador Quinn's face was gray with terror. The Hollow. We thought they were only legends. Stories to frighten children. They are a species that has been hunting architect technology for longer than recorded history. They consume civilizations to fuel their machines. They want the armor, Megan said. That is why they came. Then give it to them, Captain Vorath demanded. His earlier anger had transformed into pure panic. Cut it off the human, if you must. I will not die for some primitive creature who should be carrying boxes. Daniel ignored the insult. Through the armor's enhanced awareness, he could feel the hollow ships scanning the station. He could sense their hunger, their emptiness. They were not truly alive anymore. They had given up everything that made life worth living in exchange for power. If we give them the armor, they will kill us anyway, Daniel said. The Hollow do not leave witnesses. Dr. Fennec nodded weakly. The human is correct. Historical records suggest the Hollow have never shown mercy. Surrender would only delay our deaths by minutes. Then we fight, Grothak growled. The Kovani warrior had recovered from his earlier breakdown. Fear still lingered in his eyes, but his warrior pride was stronger. I would rather die with my claws in an enemy than cowering like prey. Daniel felt the armor responding to his thoughts. Information flowed into his mind, teaching him things he had never learned. The armor was ancient, but it was also alive in its own way. It wanted to protect him. It wanted to help him protect others. I have an idea, Daniel said. The armor was made for situations like this. It can do things that seem impossible, but I need time to learn how to use it properly. How much time? Ambassador Quinn asked. I do not know, but I will try to bias as much as I can. Daniel walked toward the chamber exit. Get everyone to the escape pods. If I fail, at least some of you might survive. Megan grabbed his arm. You cannot fight an entire fleet alone. That is suicide. Daniel smiled at her. It was a sad smile, but also peaceful. Humans have always done impossible things when we had no other choice. That is what the armor saw in us. That is why it chose me. He gently removed her hand and walked into the corridor. The station shook as the first enemy weapons struck the outer hull. The Hollow were not waiting for the hour to end. They were testing the defenses, looking for weak points. Daniel moved through the hallways, the armor guiding him toward the nearest airlock dot. He stepped outside into the vacuum of space. The armor protected him completely. He felt no cold, no pressure, no lack of air. The stars surrounded him like diamonds scattered across black velvet. The Hollow fleet loomed ahead. Dark and terrible. Daniel reached out with his mind, and the armor responded. Energy gathered around his hands, glowing brighter and brighter until it was almost blinding. He pushed forward and flew through space like a golden comet. The first Hollow ship tried to shoot him down. Weapons fired beams of purple energy that could melt steel in seconds. But the armor absorbed the attacks and turned them into more power for Daniel. The more they shot at him, the stronger he became. He crashed through the hull of the nearest ship and tore it apart from inside. Hollow soldiers rushed to stop him, creatures that were more machine than flesh. Their bodies had been modified so many times that nothing natural remained. Daniel felt pity for them even as he fought. The armor showed him their history. The Hollow had once been a proud species, not unlike humans. But when they failed to bond with the architect armor, they had gone mad with jealousy. They built copies of the armor, crude imitations that required constant fuel to function. That fuel came from the life force of other beings. They had become monsters because they could not accept that they were not worthy. Daniel fought through ship after ship. The armor grew stronger with each battle, learning from every attack, adapting to every weapon. But there were too many enemies. For every ship he destroyed, 10 more took its place. Back on the station, Megan watched on the screens. Tears ran down her face as she saw Daniel fighting alone against impossible odds. But she also felt something else. Pride. Pride in her species. Pride in her friend. He is actually doing it, Krillic said softly. The insectoid engineer sounded almost respectful. The human is holding them back. Captain Vorath said nothing. He simply stared at the screen, watching a being he had dismissed as worthless perform miracles. Then the Hollow command ship opened. A figure emerged, flying toward Daniel without any visible propulsion. It wore armor similar to Daniel's, but twisted and wrong. The metal was covered in cracks that glowed with sickly red light. It pulsed and shifted in ways that hurt to look at. So you are the one the architects chose, the figure said. Its voice echoed directly into Daniel's mind. A human. A creature from a tiny world in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. How disappointing. Daniel faced the Hollow commander. Through the armor's senses, he could feel the corruption radiating from his enemy. The red armor was powerful, but it was also dying. It consumed its wearer even as it gave him strength. Who are you? Daniel asked. I am Vorax, last prince of the Hollow Empire. My ancestors touched the true armor 10 million years ago. It rejected them, just as it rejected everyone else. But we did not accept that judgment. We built our own armor. We made ourselves worthy through force. You made yourselves into monsters, Daniel said. Vorax laughed, a terrible sound like breaking glass. Monsters rule the universe, little human. The worthy die young and are forgotten. Power is the only truth that matters. He attacked without warning. The impact sent Daniel tumbling through space. Vorax was stronger than any enemy he had faced so far. The corrupted armor gave him terrible power, power stolen from billions of consumed lives. They fought among the stars, trading blows that would have destroyed mountains. Daniel's armor cracked under the assault. For the first time since bonding, he felt pain, but he did not give up. He thought about Earth. He thought about all the humans who had faced impossible situations and refused to surrender. He thought about McGann and the crew waiting for him to save them. The armor felt his resolve and responded. It began to change, to evolve, to unlock secrets that had been locked away for millions of years. Daniel stood up in the void of space, golden light blazing around him like a newborn star. "You do not understand," he said to Vorax. "Being worthy was never about power. It was about what you do with power. It was about choosing to protect instead of destroy." He raised his hand, and for the first time, the Hollow Commander felt fear. Vorax attacked with all his strength. Red lightning crackled from his corrupted armor, tearing through space toward Daniel. Each strike contained the stolen life force of millions of beings, power that had been ripped from innocent creatures across 100,000 years. But Daniel did not dodge. He stood in the void and let the attacks wash over him. His golden armor absorbed the energy, purified it, and made it his own. The souls that Vorax had consumed found peace at last, their stolen essence finally returning to the universe. "Impossible," Vorax hissed. "That power belongs to me. I earned it through conquest." "You earned nothing," Daniel replied. His voice carried across space without sound, speaking directly to Vorax's mind. "You took what was not yours. You destroyed what you could not understand. That is not strength. That is fear." They clashed again, moving faster than light, fighting across distances that would take normal ships years to cross. Each blow sent shockwaves rippling through space. Stars flickered as reality itself struggled to contain their battle. On the station, everyone watched in silence. The screens could barely track the fight. All they saw were flashes of gold and red, explosions of impossible energy, and the slow destruction of the Hollow Fleet as the two warriors tore through ship after ship. "The human is losing," Captain Vorath said quietly. He could see the cracks spreading across Daniel's armor, the way his movements were getting slower. "No," Megan said firmly. "He is not losing. He is learning." She was right. Daniel had never been a fighter. Before today, his greatest challenge had been carrying heavy boxes without dropping them. But the armor was teaching him, showing him how to move, how to strike, how to channel its power. And more importantly, it was showing him what he was fighting for. He saw visions of the future. Not certain futures, but possible ones. He saw what would happen if the Hollow won. Worlds burning. Species erased. The light of civilization fading until nothing remained but cold darkness. He also saw what could happen if he won. A galaxy learning to work together. Humans taking their place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as friends. A future worth fighting for. Why you resist? Vorax demanded. He was growing frustrated. No matter how hard he hit, the human kept getting up. "You cannot win. My armor has existed for millions of years. Yours is only just awakened." Daniel wiped blood from his lip. Even through the armor, some damage was getting through. His body was reaching its limits, but his spirit was just getting started. "You want to know why I keep fighting?" Daniel asked. "Because giving up is not something humans know how to do. We have faced extinction 100 times. Ice ages, plagues, wars. Every single time, we should have died. But we did not. We kept going. We held on to hope even when hope seemed foolish." He stood straighter, and his armor blazed brighter. "The architects saw that in us. They saw a species that earned its survival through pure stubborn refusal to quit. That is what makes us worthy. Not power, not conquest. Just the simple, stupid, beautiful decision to keep trying no matter what. Vorax screamed in rage and launched his most powerful attack. Red energy gathered around him like a dying sun, containing enough destructive force to shatter planets. He threw it all at Daniel in one final strike. Daniel did not run. He thought about everyone he wanted to protect. Megan, the crew, Earth, every human who had ever lived and every human who would ever be born. He gathered all of that love, all of that hope, and channeled it through the armor. Golden light exploded outward. When the flash faded, Vorax floated in space, his corrupted armor crumbling around him. The red glow was dying, the stolen power finally escaping after millions of years of imprisonment. Without his armor, Vorax was just a withered creature, ancient and broken. "How?" he whispered. "How did you defeat me?" Daniel floated closer. He could have finished Vorax easily. The armor was ready to deliver the final blow. But he did not. "Because I was not fighting to win," Daniel said softly. "I was fighting to protect. There's a difference." He turned away and flew back toward the station. Behind him, the remaining hollow ships began to retreat. Without their leader, they had no will to continue. The corrupted armor that had driven them for so long was finally dying, and they did not know how to exist without it. Daniel landed inside the station's airlock. The armor deactivated, folding back into a simple mark on his palm. He stumbled and nearly fell, but Megan caught him. "You did it," she said, tears streaming down her face. "You actually did it." "We did it," Daniel corrected her. I could feel everyone's hope giving me strength. Humans are never truly alone. Captain Varth approached slowly. The proud Drekari looked uncertain, almost humble. "I owe you an apology, human. I treated you as lesser when you were anything but. You saved us all." Daniel shook his head. "The armor saved us. I was just wearing it." "No." Ambassador Quinn stepped forward, his silver eyes filled with new respect. "The armor chose you because of who you are, not the other way around. The Galactic Council will hear of this. Humans deserve recognition among the great species of the universe." In the weeks that followed, everything changed. The Council offered humanity a seat among the ruling powers. Daniel became famous across the galaxy, though he never felt comfortable with the attention. When asked what he planned to do with the armor, Daniel made a surprising choice. He returned to the ancient station and placed the armor back in its chamber. "It does not belong to me," he explained to the confused officials. "It belongs to whoever needs it. Maybe another human will come someday who needs its help. Maybe it will be someone from another species who has finally learned what it means to be worthy. Either way, it should wait here, ready for the next challenge." The mark on his palm glowed softly. The armor would always be connected to him, ready to return if he truly needed it. But for now, he was happy just being Daniel Porter. On the flight back to Earth, Megan sat beside him. "How did it feel?" she asked. "Wearing the armor, I mean. Being chosen." Daniel looked out the window at the stars passing by. He thought about all the visions he had seen, all the history of his species playing out in his mind. "It felt like being human," he finally said. "Carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders and choosing to keep walking anyway. Feeling afraid but doing the right thing despite the fear. Looking at darkness and deciding to be a light." Megan smiled. "That sounds about right." The ship flew on through the endless night, carrying two humans back to their small blue world. Behind them, the armor waited in its chamber, its ancient light pulsing slowly. It had found a worthy at last. And it knew, deep in its mysterious heart, that it would not be disappointed. Humanity had only just begun.